Hello, John Talley here with Boats.net. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time and I'm going to give you a few troubleshooting tips if you're having a problem with the lower unit on your outdrive. Now the unit that we have in front of us is actually a cutaway from a 2004 Yamaha F225, and we're going to use this because I can point out things to look for if you have to go inside to figure out what's going on with yours. Now one of the primary complaints is, well, when I go to engage it, it makes a crunching noise or a grinding noise, but it does engage. Well, that might not actually be a problem inside your unit at all, because what's happening is this particular gear is either engaging the prop shaft with your forward gear or your reverse gear, and when it doesn't engage properly with these teeth, that's the grinding action that you're hearing. Now that is typically caused by an inconsistent adjustment actually in between your throttle and the actual shift cables, because what needs to happen is that shift needs to be completed before the throttle is applied, and sometimes you may not have it adjusted correctly to where those teeth are completely engaged before the throttle clicks in, and that's when you hear that grinding noise. So that's one of the first things you want to check before you go tearing into your lower unit when there's actually nothing wrong. But it is something you want to address quickly, because the more times you hear that grind, that means more metal is getting spread inside your lower unit, and it's going to make a mess of things, I guarantee you. Now next is a silent killer that I want to talk about, and this goes into your routine maintenance because it is very important for the life of your engine as well as the lower unit, is to change the fluids in it regularly. And all this has in it, or supposed to have in it, is gear lube. And if you've drained it and it has a milky look to it or just flat water comes out of it, that means you've lost a seal somewhere. Looking at your prop shaft is probably one of the easiest ones to get to, because all it requires you to do is just remove the propeller. Now one of the big giveaways that you've got a leaking prop shaft seal is typically caused by it ingesting fishing line. That is the #1 killer of output seals, because beyond this one, there's actually another one right behind it that they work in tandem to keep the oil in and the water out. So that's one of the first places you check. Now, if you still haven't found it, well, that's where you're going to have to get more involved, actually pulling apart the unit. You'd want to drop the unit down, remove your water pump, because below here on the input shaft, there is another pair of stacked seals. Now, if you don't see anything visually here or here, well, that's when you may have to invest in a pressure tool. Now, with it pressurized, you can spray it just with a little bit of soapy water up at your input shaft seals as well as your output shaft seals. Now, if you've pressurized the casing and it's not leaking either at the input shaft or the output shaft, that's where you're going to have to get a little bit more involved. At that point, you're going to need to pull what they call the output shaft carrier, which is right here, because what you want to determine is if that O-ring or this O-ring has failed, and that'll be visually apparent when you actually get the unit pulled apart. Next thing we want to look at is, well, maybe your engine is overheating. Well, this is the #1 place you need to look first, is going to be your impeller. But to do that, you actually have to drop the unit down and then pull the housing and inspect the impeller, because even one of these little pieces are missing, that means it's possibly stopping it up somewhere else in the system. So that's where you'd want to head and take a peek. Next thing we want to talk about is you're trying to remove the lower unit and it just will not separate. Well, I hate to be that guy, but this is one of those I told you so moments, because whenever you remove this and you go to reinstall it, you have to make very sure that you re-grease the splines that are actually going up, well, actually into the crankshaft of the power head. If you do not, you run a great risk of it corroding and then not letting go. Now, if that's already happened and you're trying to get it to drop and it just won't drop, well, the best advice I can give you is to gently pry in between these two surfaces and try not to gall it up. What I've had to use before are just metal scrapers, pretty thin. If I can get those in there, I pry against those with a screwdriver or a chisel and eventually break it loose. It's just an arduous task, and there's no magic pill I can give you that'll make it separate instantly. The advice I want to give you is to make sure every time you reinstall it, re-grease those splines that go into the input shaft. The real trick to this entire troubleshooting video is to give you the best piece of advice is to follow the maintenance schedule, because if you follow that, the chances of you having these problems that I've just discussed is going to be very minimal at best. The one that'll probably get you will be the fishing line, and no amount of maintenance will get around that, but it will help you to catch it sooner as long as you're following the schedule as you're supposed to. Well, listen, if you need any parts for your boat, why don't you come see us at boats.net and we can get you taken care of. Hey, you like what you see? Why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at boats.net, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.